What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to Never Lag, all you beautiful Never fans out there. I'm Levi, that's Zach, and this is, of course, This Week in Gaming, the show where we bring you the news, the reviews, and the hot takes from the past week in video games, without fail, straight to your ear holes. And if you're all about it, you can support us over on Patreon at patreon.com/neverlag. And of course, right here for free by doing what you're doing, watching on YouTube or listening wherever you get your podcasts. And this is the part where I would say let's talk games, but today I have no news. I'm a newsless man, and I hear you have the news, Zach. I hear you come bearing news.
You're not.
Yes,
Wandering, newsless man.
Yeah, I'm going to let you take over, and in return, I'm going to offer the freshest and the choicest of hot takes that I can muster.
That's great. I can't wait to get your reactions because we have some steaming hot news right out of somewhere, whether it's the ovens.
Sounded really gross for a minute there.
Or something. No, we're talking about ovens. So anybody thinking anything else, get your heads out of wherever. So let's get into the news. We have roughly 10 stories for you. So first we're gonna do a quick review roundup of Weird West. Weird West is like a kind of an action RPG.
That sounds pretty weird.
It sounds weird. It's kind of an interesting looking game. I think it's from the studio that did Dishonored, but it's a new, or the developer, but it's a new studio. I'm forgetting the name of the studio off the top of my head, but I think
keep going.
This is one that was on your list, I remember, of anticipated games. One of the things you were interested in. And I think it kind of blends like the Old West cowboys, gunfights with some more fantastical kind of dark fantasy elements in kind of a weird top-down RPG view. So very different, not like anything I've quite seen. It's sitting at a 78 on Metacritic and a 76 on OpenCritic. So it's doing decently well. It's not the strongest contender, but I would say it's relatively positive, right? So couple of reviews I pulled from OpenCritic for us. The first one is from Game Informer, who gave this an 8.5 out of 10. So a pretty positive review from Alex Van Aken. And Alex says, regardless, developer Wolfeye Studios stole your thunder. There we go.
Darn it.
Developer
I was waiting to jump in.
I know. I beat you to it completely on accident.
Now I'm completely useless.
Perfect. Well, I am here to bring you the news today. So
that's true.
So Alex Van Aken from Game Informer says, regardless, developer Wolfeye Studios has crafted one hell of a debut release. Weird West subverts expectations, twisting well-trodden cowboy tropes into dark fantasy vignettes brought to life by immersive and sandbox elements. So that's a pretty cool review. That actually gets me a little excited for it. Expectations being subverted, that can go either way, but it's framed in a positive way here. I think dark fantasy with cowboy stuff, and then like the idea of like vignettes or these short little experiential things sounds pretty exciting. But I also pulled kind of a counterpoint. Edwin Evans Thurwell from Eurogamer gives this no recommendation. And he says, a bold, atmospheric, yet dissatisfying ensemble RPG shooter full of untapped promise. So we can kind of see across the gambit, there are some positive reviews, some not so positive, overall sitting in the high 70s. So might be worth checking out. Levi, any thoughts now that we have reviews for Weird West?
What are my thoughts? I really don't know. A 78 is not bad. 78 is totally serviceable if it's kind of up your alley. I didn't really know if this was going to be up my alley. It kind of looked weird, as the title of the game would indicate. So I really didn't have a lot of preconceived notions going into this game as far as what it would be. And these reviews certainly they're not terribly helpful, right? There's quite a skew here between. By the way, is no recommendation, is that the same as not recommending something, or just not? Maybe that makes
wonderfully
sense, what I just said out loud.
Yeah, no, it's like, does it just mean they just didn't put in a score, or are they saying we
right,
actively Is it an active disrecommendation or is it a
Every time I
passive
read
no
that,
recommendation?
yeah, every time I read that, I'm like, did they just not score it, or is
Yeah.
it don't recommend? So,
I
anyways,
take I take it as they don't recommend it.
right, that I think that is the intent there. And then I also watched briefly today, um, Skill Up, as I tend to do when he puts out a review, and he was a little underwhelmed with it as well. I think he was looking forward to it, um, rather peripherally as I was. It sounds like, and I didn't listen to the whole thing, but the gist I got was that there was a lack of depth. That there were some cool concepts in this game, and at the end of the day, it maybe all the systems were a little shallow, or the combat was a little shallow. So I don't know. This for me, I may need to watch some more reviews on it, and it'll probably be a sale game for me if I were to ever pick it up. I do really like the vibe, the style of this game, the art, and kind of the setting that it's going for, like you mentioned. So
Yeah.
um,
That's
I don't
that's
know,
kind of where
up in the air.
that's kind of where I'm coming in with this one. Sounds interesting. A lot of if you look through the other reviews on OpenCritic or Metacritic, a lot of them are saying things like it's very ambitious, but it sort of fails to stick the landing. A lot of systems, a lot of ideas and complexity that ultimately doesn't seem like it quite comes together. So I think if you really appreciate some of the risks that it takes, or some of the specific flavors that it's going for, you might still have a good time. But ultimately, it doesn't quite achieve what I think a lot of people were hoping for it to. So I'm also thinking, if I find this on sale, or if I ever have a dearth of games, which I don't know when that will be, but I might pick this up eventually. But
The
yeah,
apocalypse,
the apocalypse, the next apocalypse.
right?
Cool. So that's it for our review roundup. That's the only one. Last week we had a ton of them. This week it's just Weird West. But moving on to our second story for this week. Just an update that E3 2022 officially has been canceled. So the news broke from a tweet from Razer PR lead Will Powers, who said that an email has been sent out announcing the official cancellation. So I think we expected this. We talked about this a few weeks ago in one of our shows. But it's nice to know officially that this is actually nice, quote unquote, to know that this officially has been canceled. But a little bit of an update regarding next year. So ESA has shared an official statement with IGN confirming not just this cancellation, but announcing that E3 will likely return in 2023 with a reinvigorated showcase. And they say, quote, "We will devote all our energy and resources to delivering a revitalized physical and digital E3 experience next summer. Whether enjoyed from the show floor of your favorite devices, the 2023 showcase will bring the community, media, and industry back together in an all-new format and interactive experience. We look forward to presenting E3 to fans around the world live from Los Angeles in 2023. So kind of up in the air exactly what this is going to look like. Sounds like something will be happening next year. I think it's still a little unclear if this will ever reach the heights of what E3 was pre-COVID, but at least there is something on the horizon we can look forward to. So I don't know. Any thoughts about this news?
Yeah, news to me. This is exciting. The
Woo!
show is invigorating sitting on this side. So officially canceled. I feel like it's been officially canceled like 3 times, but I guess that was just all unofficial, and this is official now.
That was pre-official.
Pre-official, and now we're at post-official. So that's kind of sad. But actually, the news about next year, I like hearing that. I think E3 has kind of been the butt of a lot of jokes, and I don't know, a lot of people kind of maybe throwing the sentiment out there, we don't need E3, or E3 is this and that and the other thing. I think we've kind of come to see over the past couple of years that a world without E3, for all of its flaws and everything that it needs to change from its like from how it's built, things need to change fundamentally, obviously. But a world without E3, I think, has been pretty universally worse. I would venture to say. I know for myself that's the case, and I think that's the overall sentiment, is that people just kind of feel like there's this gap in the year, and all these companies are just aimlessly wandering about with they have all this video game news and they don't know what to do with it, and it all comes out, just spills out wherever it spills out, and it's It's less impactful. So I would love if E3 could return to form next year. And I kind of believe it can, honestly, with the world trending the way it is now. I mean, a couple months ago it felt impossible, but things, whether or not they're ready to, seem to be returning to normal, across the board. And I believe this could happen next year. And I do think that fundamentally they will need to change um, their take, like what they're doing. They'll need to change some concepts because I think a lot of companies now look at E3 and they see what PlayStation does and the kind of numbers that they get when they just put out a state of play or whatever. They do their own thing, right?
Yep.
And so the amount of money that E3 was charging these companies to have booths, I don't think that's sustainable anymore. I think a lot of companies will opt out if they continue that model. So, and then also the digital physical hybrid, I think there's some changes needed there. I think we're in a place now where even if there is a physical location E3 takes place at, the whole world wants to be a part of it in a digital way, in a way that we weren't really before. I mean, we kind of had the showcases we'd get to tune in on YouTube, but I think COVID really has changed all of that as well. So I think there are some core changes that need to take place. And hopefully, I mean, from the statement you read me, it kind of sounds like maybe they know that and they're preparing for that. So I consider me hopeful that they're able to pull it off because I miss E3 and I would love it if every June we got to look forward to a week of just a smorgasbord of video game news and trailers.
Yeah. I think there's something to be said for the art of like a performative reveal for the exciting big moves in video games rather
It's
than
all
just
about
a constant
presentation.
the presentation. There's instead of a constant
Yeah.
like drip feed of mostly smaller things. I think there's something kind of community based and cultural about it that video games are a cool hobby, but there's a peripheral aspect to that. Like I love the experience of playing a video game, even by myself. That's kind of what we all fell in love with initially. But part of that is like going to the store and picking up the video game or going to Best Buy, talking to someone about the game, talking to friends about the game, listening to things on YouTube or other places. And then I think that kind of the pinnacle of this was E3 with this. It's basically like, the holiday of video games where you take a trip to wherever it is if you could, and, tens or hundreds of thousands of people congregate to celebrate and eagerly await the next big announcements. So I think it's good they're doing something here. I agree. There's probably some changes. So look forward to seeing what those are, but it's nice to know that it's not just dead in the water. It's just being revitalized for next year.
Yeah, that's kind of where I thought we were at with it. So that's good to know. And I like what you said about that because there are a lot of people who play multiplayer games mainly, but I still think the majority of people who play games play so in a single player manner. And as much as I enjoy the single player experience, it's kind of like that let's be alone together kind of vibe, right? Like you still want to talk about your solo experiences with people and get together and celebrate video games. So agreed.
Yeah, for sure. So look forward to seeing how that turns out next year. But this takes us into our third story for today's show, which is talking about Project Spartacus. What is Spartacus? It's the fabled announcement from Sony about some secret project that was not at all so secret. I think it was Jason Schreier from Bloomberg sometime last year who kind of teased that this was their version of a subscription service.
A Game Pass killer.
The Game Pass killer. Is this the Game Pass killer? Or is it at least a worthy rival? Or is it kind of a disappointment? We're going to get into that. So Project Spartacus, which is essentially just PlayStation Plus, which is their existing subscription service, rebranded, right? So, I think a rebranding was needed. There was a lot of confusion with their various digital subscription services. And what they've done now is they've grouped this all into the umbrella of PlayStation Plus. But this kind of new version of the subscription service has three different tiers. Essential, Essential, Extra, and Premium. And we'll get into exactly what is included with those. This new subscription model will take effect in June, so we're not quite there yet. And before we dive into some of the details of what this offers, I think the one big call out is the key difference, I think, between PlayStation Plus in its revamped form and Game Pass is that PlayStation Plus will not be offering the premium Sony first party titles on this service day one, unlike a lot of the titles that Microsoft Game Pass does offer. I think many people were hoping for something like that, but I also think we were skeptical, right? Like that's kind of one of the big sticking points for Sony. Related to that, there was an interview with PlayStation's CEO Jim Ryan, and he is quoted as saying, "We feel like we are in a good virtuous cycle with the studios," explains PlayStation CEO Jim Ryan, "where the investment delivers success, which enables yet more investment, which delivers yet more success. We like that cycle, and we think our gamers like that cycle." He continues, "In terms of putting our own games into this service or any of our services upon their release, as you well know, this is not a road that we've gone down in the past. And it's not a road that we're going to go down with this new service. We feel if we were to do that with the games that we make at PlayStation Studios, that virtuous cycle will be broken. The level of investment that we need to make in our studios would not be possible, and we think the knock-on effect on the quality of the games that we make would not be something that gamers want." End quote. So you can kind of get a picture into Sony and PlayStation's thinking, and that's really that. I think a lot of their value comes from delivering, supposedly really high quality first party games. And that if they are to offer these on day one, they feel like there's going to be some diminishment of returns, which in turn, they're kind of saying wouldn't allow them to fund as much into these games, which it kind of makes sense. Like, I think that's the philosophy they've had for a while. But this leads us to kind of this maybe slightly lackluster subscription service where you're not getting these really exciting titles day one. So I'd love to get your take on this. Before we jump into the tiers, what are your quick high level thoughts, and then we can go into the details.
You're saying I have high level thoughts. That's very presumptuous. So, I mean, this is what we all expected. We've been hearing. It's kind of weird that we had so many rumors about this because Sony tends to be. The rumors are impossible with Sony. We get rumors every week, and 90% of them are way off. But this was pretty spot on. We kind of knew we got word of tiers that were coming, and I never envisioned them doing what Game Pass does because it's very antithetical to their ideology as a business. They've really stationed themselves as a premium product kind of company, despite what I might say about this past month. But that's how they've positioned themselves. And so this is no surprise. I'm going to have to get more details from you. I've heard roughly what these three tiers are, but regarding the whole Jim Ryan statement about their game plan and why there will be no day one releases, which we all saw coming. I don't really take issue with it or disagree with it, to be honest. I love what Game Pass is doing. I appreciate what Phil Spencer and Microsoft. I think they're doing some really cool things that are they're certainly changing the gaming industry, the entire landscape. Whether or not it's for good, for better, or worse, it's going to take a long time to really sort that out. But I also don't really believe in this whole race to the bottom where, if PlayStation were truly to try and compete with Game Pass, I just feel like at a certain point we would truly start to see, and we probably will truly start to see a dip in the median of quality, right, for Microsoft games, because that's just kind of the way it works. If you're trying to get as many games into the hands of as many people as you can for as cheap as possible, at a certain point quality has to suffer. And so I'm kind of glad Sony isn't competing with this. I like the split between Xbox and PlayStation right now. Now that said, I need PlayStation to deliver on their ideology. I need that if they want to be premium, then their games need to feel premium at launch and not be full of microtransactions like we've talked about. So I'm fine with his statement. I want them to back it up, and I'm not at all surprised by what we're getting here.
Yeah, totally. That's kind of where I'm coming in. I think there's room in the market for both of these strategies. It's probably beneficial to both Microsoft and Sony for them to pursue different strategies because they'll be able to capture different types of value in the market. And I think both are interesting. But let's get into what the tiers are. And I think that'll help us understand the nitty gritty, as we love to say. That'll help us to understand like what is the value that PlayStation's offering, because I think we're realizing this isn't, it is sort of is competition with Game Pass, but it's not like super direct competition, and they're not intending it to be. But it is meant to be rounding out the value of the PlayStation and Sony ecosystem, which is, I think, what they're going for. And that is what's more debatable here. So the first tier is PlayStation Plus Essential. This feels pretty on par. I think this is maybe exactly what we
I
currently
think it's
have
exactly
with
what it
with
is.
PlayStation Plus. And so the benefits of this is that it provides everything we have today, including the 2 monthly downloadable games that we get, exclusive discounts here and there, cloud storage for saved games, which is kind of annoying that that has to be included in a subscription, but yes, cloud storage,
You stole
online
my thunder.
multiplayer, online multiplayer access. So basically, if you're a PlayStation Plus member today, you're going to be transferred into PlayStation Plus Essential. It's the same thing. It just has that kind of new moniker. The pricing for that in the United States is $9.99 monthly, $24.99 quarterly, $59.99 yearly. So obviously the best deal remains to buy this at the annual subscription if you are able. Pricing isn't changing there. PlayStation Plus Extra is the next step up in this new version of PlayStation Plus. So the benefits of this tier is everything that was in the essential tier. Along with, it adds a catalog of up to around 400 of their words, the most enjoyable PS4 and PS5 games, including blockbuster hits from PlayStation Studios catalog and third-party partners. Games in the extra tier are downloadable for play, so you don't have to cloud stream those. Price for this is $14.99 a month, or $39.99 quarterly, or $99.99 yearly. So a little bit more expensive. And I think the key here is that you're getting more PS4 and some PS5 games. It's not going to be day one releases. God of War Ragnarok comes out. It's not going to be on there for, I don't know how long. They don't really specify, but presumably a while. But you'll be able to play older PS5 games that have been out for a while. You'll be able to play a suite of PS4 games.
I imagine them having probably a 2-year delay minimum.
Yeah.
That would be my bet.
Yeah, I think we'll probably see some similar patterns with what they're doing with like PC ports of their games, where they want to eke out as many sales as they can on their their current gen consoles.
Not to derail us, but if they're going to start doing that with a cadence of delaying PC ports of games a year or two after launch on PlayStation 5, wouldn't simultaneously putting that on this subscription decrease sales on PC? Maybe not, because the people who play it on PC are playing it there for a different reason. I don't know.
It's a good question. I mean, maybe different markets.
Maybe.
Yeah, I could see them waiting a year, maybe two, before they put these things on. Maybe they put it on PlayStation Plus Premium a year into a game's life cycle, and then at the 2-year mark, they put it on PC. They don't specify. That's all speculation. Or PlayStation Plus Extra, not Premium. But getting to the third tier, PlayStation Plus Premium, the benefits include everything from both the essential and extra tiers, as you'd expect. And this adds an additional 340 games, including PS3 games that are available via cloud streaming, as well as a catalog of, their words, beloved classic games available in both streaming and download options from the original PlayStation, PS2, and PSP generations. This tier also offers cloud streaming access for original PlayStation, PS2, PSP, and PS4 games offered in the extra and premium tiers in markets where PlayStation Now is currently available. And these customers can stream games using PS4 and PS5 consoles and PC with some asterisks. We'll leave links if you want to go look into that. The other interesting thing, there's one final benefit in the premium tier, and that is time-limited game trials that will be offered so that customers can try select games before they buy. Presumably this is new titles, big titles. You can play them for an hour or a specific amount of time, which is kind of an interesting thing to include in this top tier. So
yeah, I think it is too. I don't know. I'll let you finish and then I'll.
I was just going to say,
around.
Yeah, so just to give the pricing on this one, $17.99 a month $49.99 every quarter, $119.99 annually. So the pricing for this is, if you pay annually, is roughly $10 a month, which is not terrible. I think someone did the calculation that if you currently are subscribed to both PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now as separate services, it will be, I think, a little bit cheaper if you subscribe annually to the PlayStation Plus Premium. So that's good. I'm glad that price isn't going up. I think it's going down a little bit. So, I think they're doing a good job of consolidating some of their brand for subscription services. And I think the pricing is not terrible, but some interesting things there. I'd love to get your take on, especially on the extra and premium tiers.
So I'm pretty sure, and I could be wrong, but I believe that the PlayStation Plus Premium annual $120 is actually the exact same price you would pay annually for PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now right now. I think they're both $60 a year if you buy it.
You might be right. Yeah.
So I think they've kept the top end at the same price, which I think is fine. I don't take too much issue with most of this. I think we need to move past where cloud storage for saved games is a paid service, and we need to move past, this isn't mentioned in here, but where online play is tied to a subscription too. Like, it's just it's insane to me that if I want to play an online game on my computer, well, guess what? I pay for internet already. And so I can play it online. And somehow these consoles have worked their way into being like a third middleman for internet. Side tangent there. I hate that so much. So not really part of this. I hate that. I wish that and cloud storage, I think, should just be part of buying the console. I think they should just goodwill give that to players. I don't understand, and I don't love the pricing model here of the monthly being so far off from the annual. It's just, I mean, it's just so weird. It's so contrary to, like we said, this isn't a competitor to Game Pass, and it's so clear here because if you were to pay for PlayStation Plus Extra, no, Premium monthly, it's what, $17.99?
Yep.
USD or $16.99?
$17.99, $18.
$17.99. So $18 a month. You're paying $3 more than Game Pass, and you're getting substantially less value. And so they're clearly directing people to an annual model. And I don't quite see the business sense in that. I think you would want to get people on a monthly subscription. I don't know. To me, it just feels like Sony either doesn't understand the subscription model or doesn't believe in them, or like is afraid people will subscribe for a month and then bow out, which
I think
most people never do. Most people never do, though. They always forget. That's why subscription models work. That's why that is the main like form of media right now. So I don't know. I don't understand the pricing structure here. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. But when you look at it monthly, it truly just looks really out of touch with what Game Pass is doing for 10 or 15 bucks a month. And granted, if you pay for it annually, it is substantially cheaper than Game Pass. But I would argue that that's where the monthly should be as well. I was kind of looking to this whole situation as, will they be able to persuade me, someone who has never subscribed to PlayStation Now, never used it once. I know I'm not alone. The majority of people haven't. I've had PlayStation Plus now for years. I mean, since early PS4 days. So what are we talking? 7 years now?
Something like that.
I've held the PlayStation Plus membership, sometimes begrudgingly due to online play and things like that. But at the end of the day, I was able to get a full year for $45 on sale recently. And I'm pretty happy with the value. I mean, I just heard next month they're coming out with SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom. And I've been meaning to play that and never spent money on it. So now I'll just have it. And that happens several times throughout the year, usually. So I've enjoyed PlayStation Plus, but I just don't see myself upgrading this. I guess it'll remain to be seen what the month-to-month cadence is on this PlayStation, the rebranded PlayStation Now. How frequently are they adding new games to it? How long are the games staying on it? how many third party games are they able to get maybe day and date? I know they're not going to put their first party ones on, but are they going to put cash into it to get, the Tunics of the world on PlayStation Plus Extra day one? Because then maybe if they're doing stuff like that, then maybe I'll look at it and go, hey, this is worth it now. But for me, this doesn't move the needle for me at all. I kind of wonder who this is for, because I think a lot of people who are already tuned into PlayStation have played most anything that PlayStation's going to be willing to put on this service, because it's clear they're not going to put recent or new stuff on it.
Yeah.
And so for you or I or a lot of people who play PlayStation games, how much value is really going to be added to this service? It feels like not a lot right now. So
yeah,
that's where I'm at. I don't see myself switching from where I'm at right now. The premium, adding the old games, I've seen people dunking on Sony for the still not having PS3 games figured out. That will forever haunt them.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever mess the PS3 was, they seem incapable of getting them to be downloadable on the PlayStation on newer gen consoles. And then also it remains to be seen what classic games from PS2, PSP, and PlayStation. Did it say PlayStation 1? Original PlayStation.
Original, yep.
Yeah, so I'll be curious to see what is available. How are they going to handle that? Is that going to be cycling every month? Is it going to be frustratingly not the games you actually want to play from those generations? Yeah. Is it going to be just an extensive library of all of them? Because then, hey, maybe all of a sudden it's worth it. There's still a lot of unknowns here, but based on the information we have here, it doesn't move the needle for me, and it's pretty much what I expected.
Yeah, that's about where I'm at. This is pretty much exactly what I expected out of Project Spartacus, which is kind of a bummer. I was hoping to be a little bit surprised. Not that I expect them or need them to compete directly with Game Pass, but honestly, if they had done something as simple as, making PS3 games downloadable, making cloud storage or online play free, if they had done a couple of things like that, that could have been a really nice token of goodwill while rebranding these services and making them more accessible to people. But it's about what we expected. I kind of wish they didn't have 3 tiers. Like, I keep getting confused as to what's what.
Yeah, I think that too.
Like, just make it 2. Make it,
I was kind of thinking the other top level thought, as Zach might request of me, is that this feels, I just was expecting more of a hard reboot for both of these, for PlayStation Plus, and now I was expecting, this feels like a miss from a, yeah, it's not a rebrand. Like there's just such little difference here. The fact that essentially PlayStation Extra is the exact same as if you're a person who purchases PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now right now. Like there is more
consolidation than anything.
Although it is a little cheaper. So, okay, I think it's cheaper, right? Fair enough. Yeah. But yeah, this just doesn't better. I was expecting them to really go under the hood and renovate how all of this was working and make it all kind of link together a little bit better. And this feels still continued to be just too disjointed and complicated. And to me, it looks like an unsuccessful rebrand as far as mind share and getting people to click easily with it.
Same. Yeah. And I'm probably just going to stay in the essential tier as well. Depending on, there's a pretty big catalog of games. Like I think if you upgrade to the extra or premium tiers, they offer over 700 games across 3 different console generations. That's kind of cool. I could see myself maybe at some point wanting to replace some stuff and maybe upgrading for a while and then going back down. The pricing model, I don't love it, but it's the same with how it is today. Like right now, I think PlayStation Plus is $10 a month, or you can pay for it annually at 60 or whatever it is. So yeah, they're kind of still doing their own thing.
Basically. It just feels a little steep, doesn't it? Like it's literally half price if you pay for it annually. It's just odd.
It's very clearly,
tactics.
I think I understand what they're going for, which is they want people to be subscribed longer term. I don't know if in the past they've maybe seen that people do drop off after 1 or several months and but if they pay for it up front, they stick around longer, or if that's just an assumption on their part that's erroneous. I have no idea, but that's clearly,
I think it is, because you're telling me if they charged you $5 a month for PlayStation Plus, that the people who subscribe to it annually now wouldn't maintain that subscription. That's the cost. It's $5 a month. And I think that's so little compared to most subscription services. I just, to me, it just feels off base, but I could be
I
wrong.
don't
I
know.
don't
Yeah,
have
you might
all
be
the
right.
analytics.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah, I'm not saying it's the correct assumption, but they're clearly, their thinking is clearly that they want you grouped into like an annual customer, where this could be like business reporting. Like I've seen this
Yeah,
in
it
the
might
corporate
be.
world where they say, "Oh, we don't want to see so much churn," and it looks really good to say we've locked in X million customers at however
Yeah.
many dollars for a year. That makes your balance sheets look really nice. And so I kind of wonder if that's like a corporate thing, but either way, I agree. It's
Maybe they're
weird.
just really OCD.
Maybe that. I agree. I wish that you could pay for the monthly at the same like monthly cost as the annual, but whatever. The one other thing I wanted to call out that is really strange to me is the time limited game trials. Why is that in the highest tier?
Yeah, that
That
should be in
feels
the
like a
lowest.
feature that should be in the lowest tier
This should be free, honestly. That should
or
be, I mean, I
free. Yeah.
understand it's not industry standard, but it should be. And unrelated to that, but this kind of coincides in my brain. The fact that they're putting game trials in the highest tier is so indicative of Sony and
Mm-hmm.
their refund policy, which
Yeah.
needs to change. It's just egregiously bad. Yeah, it just all feels very on brand for them.
They should include that in their premium service. Is like you get a
Yeah,
good
you
refund
can.
policy. You can actually get a refund if you're in the
Steam's
premium.
refund policy in PlayStation Plus Premium.
There's just a
Woo, I
line in
would
their
sign up for
contract.
it. I would sign up.
Steam's policy will apply to you if you sign up for premium.
Yeah, I would
And
be
then
there.
then when you
So.
go to refund it, they'll be like, well, yeah, you have to go to Steam for this. Um,
So yeah, let us know, all of you never fans, if you're going to be a PlayStation Plus premium frequenter or annual subscriber, if we're way off base here. But
yeah. So that's it. That's
I don't know.
Spartacus. I kind of a lackluster, very meh. Like it's not bad. It's not great. It is what we expected. Maybe a slightly better deal in some ways, but
Will we
Sony
ever
continues
stop calling
to
it
us.
Spartacus?
You know, that's a cooler name than
Maybe
I'm
that's
sorry,
just its name forever.
PlayStation Plus is already what it was. It feels kind of lame to keep calling it PlayStation Plus, but
Well, and to add a word after it, it's just like
right.
PlayStation Plus Premium. Just call it the PPP. I don't know.
The PPP, that's where the branding's at.
Hmm.
Cool. Well, yeah. Let us know which service you're going to sign up for, if any, from Sony. And let's move on to our fourth story of today. It's another subscription service. You know, talking about a very middling meh subscription service from Sony. Thankfully, we're here to break some news about a probably worse subscription service, and that is Grand Theft Auto Plus from Rockstar. So this is, I don't even play Grand Theft Auto, but this was just wild to me. So I wanted to talk about it for a minute. This is a 9-year-old game, right? This Grand Theft Auto, the most recent Grand Theft Auto, has been out for almost a decade. And now they're releasing a subscription service. Like, that just feels wild to me. So here's the thing. It's $6 a month. $6 a month. That's like, if you pay annually for PlayStation Plus Essential, this is more expensive. And you get 2 free games monthly with PlayStation Plus Essential and cloud storage.
Which is also on brand for Rockstar. So
it is very on brand, but I find this kind of amazing in a hilarious.
What do I get?
Way.
What do I get for $6 a month, Zach?
Let me tell you, because it's fascinating. You get $500,000 per month, not in real life,
dollars. Oh my goodness! I was going to sign up.
I know. It got me excited. It got me excited too. But this is in game. This is in game $500,000.
How could they not be losing money on this?
I'm not exactly sure how far $500,000 will get you in the Grand Theft Auto universe. So you'll have to let us know in the comments. Is
It'll
that a good
buy
deal?
you one Gran Turismo 7 car.
Right. So it gets you some in-game currency every month. It also gives you access to some new digital content that, in my opinion, is maybe not that cool. But I don't play the game, so I'm not the best barometer for this. But there are some new like properties within I forget which city it is in California, but within the city you can get some new geographies that you own property. There's also, it didn't say new vehicles, it said vehicle upgrades. Maybe there's new vehicles, but that sounds kind of not that exciting. their member only discounts, which is wonderfully vague. Some other types of bonuses they give you. I'll link it in the notes if you want to go look at everything they list out. But it seems kind of meh for $6 a month. I guess if you're really into Grand Theft Auto, but I just find this fascinating that some of these games that'd be like if Skyrim made a subscription service, like it's been out for a decade. We bought it a
don't
million
tempt fate.
times.
Like,
I know.
seriously.
I'm sure they're working on it, right? Because I feel like
Might be.
Grand Theft Auto and Skyrim have been kind of like the two games that have been
Yeah, they're
remade to
like
death over the
colleagues.
past decade. They're old friends.
They were temps together back in the day.
Yeah. So I don't know. Any thoughts on this?
Oh man, let me see if I can muster together any choice takes for this. I too do not play Grand Theft Auto Online, but I do hear quite a bit about it because, man, if they're not in the news frequently, I mean, people that play it love it. I do think there's been quite a bit of backlash over this, though, if I'm not mistaken. I think I've heard it reverberating throughout the internet without even trying. But I don't know. My take on this is, I don't know. It kind of sucks. Like, I think the subscription model has a place, but it's just like anything where companies see it successful. They see people forget to cancel it. They see how much consistent money it can bring in on a monthly basis. And everyone's rushing out the door to get their subscription model for whatever it might be. And I think, like most trends, it's to the detriment of the industry. I also hate to see, I think Grand Theft Auto is a very impressive game. And, it's kind of a pillar of the gaming industry. It has been for a long time. But I feel like it's such a leech on the gaming industry, and I guess Rockstar especially. It makes me think of like the Call of Duties and these games that these developers become slaves to because it's where the money is and they can just make so much money. How much cooler would it be if we got a new Grand Theft Auto regularly, or like a new Red Dead Redemption game, or something
Totally.
we don't know? Like,
Yeah.
Stuff like this just is, to me, it's a leech on the industry, and it prevents us from getting new, cool, innovative stuff from the lead people in this industry, because they're just churning out content for a 7-year-old game. Which, granted, I do think Grand Theft Auto Online really has set up a pretty impressive model for what an immersive live service, not live service type game can be. It's very interesting what they've been able to do. But I don't like it because I want new stuff. I want new experiences, and these games, they're just stuck raking in money with these older games.
Yep. Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. The one thing that might make me consider subscribing, if they include some really high quality NFTs. But can't ask for everything, so I think I'm going to pass. Let's move on. I think that's an interesting story, but we have some other interesting things to talk about. Our fifth story relates to a lawsuit from Bungie against some fraudulent actors who have been basically making copyright claims on YouTube videos by content creators who are not affiliated with Destiny, but are working within their rights based on Bungie's kind of terms of service. And these fraudsters,
well-known Destiny content creators,
who are like, basically they're doing what they're allowed
to do. They're doing
it for
years.
By Bungie.
Yeah.
Right. They're not doing anything new, and they're doing things Bungie approves of. And what's happened is some of these fraudulent actors have managed to find a loophole in YouTube's policy for DMCA, which I think is Digital Millennium Copyright Act or something like that, which is essentially monitoring how content is allowed to be accessible when it is copyrighted content on the internet. And I just find this really interesting because this has been a problem for YouTube, especially for content creators, for years. And this is because anybody can go on a YouTube video, make a copyright claim, and YouTube will essentially flag that claim against the channel and consider it. You get too many of these claims, it can shut your channel down. And what's crazy
Neverlag
is, like,
was almost shut down day one.
we had a copyright claim. We made it, but It's what's crazy is that YouTube and Google, they do virtually nothing to verify this. They basically just take your word for it. Someone will be like, "Hey, you know what? This guy is using my content." And they'll be like, "We believe you. We
We
believe
got
you,
you.
random internet user." And so some of these fraudsters, I think they put together like Gmail accounts that sounded kind of like they were working with the copyright protection third party that Bungie has worked with. So they did a little bit of work to be tricky. But they went and flagged a bunch of videos on some of these well-known Destiny content creators that had their videos, content struck, and it put the community into like a kind of a frenzy because Bungie is kind of hit and miss. They're kind of hot and cold. Like people who play Destiny tend
Yeah.
to love it, but Bungie is a frustrating and polarizing company with a lot of the anti-consumer decisions they make. So it's maybe not a far cry that this was feasible. People were ready to kind of pick up their torches and be up in arms.
Yeah.
Destiny or Bungie swooped in and said, "Okay, hey, this isn't us. We're going to look into this." And that was like on March 20th. March 25th, Bungie officially filed a lawsuit, and they're claiming that these John Does, they don't know who it is yet, but these John Does were using this egregious hole in YouTube's DMCA process to impersonate Bungie as a studio, sabotage the work of these content creators, and create ill will in the Destiny community of Bungie, which is impressively nefarious, but mostly it's impressive that YouTube hasn't done anything about this because YouTube is a very, very like capable company in some areas. It's clear they just don't care to this point. What I really like about this, though, is that Bungie is now not just going after these fraudsters, they're also going after YouTube as part of this lawsuit. They're seeking damages of up to $150,000 for each fraudulent takedown notice that happened. There were at least 5, as far as I've heard. So we're already talking like 700. What is it? 750 grand, closing in on $1 million of damages. And my hope is that this is something that YouTube will maybe take more notice of, because I've heard this complaint not just from creators in the gaming space, but people who talk about books and movies and comic books and manga. This is almost put small YouTube channels out of business. And many of these channels are small businesses where they might employ a couple of people. It's their livelihoods. We're thankful enough here at Neverlag to not be successful enough to support ourselves here on YouTube yet, but maybe someday that will be us. And I would love if YouTube put some work into making better precautions here so that creators are less likely to be negatively affected. So kind of an interesting story. And for once, I'm kind of like happy with what Bungie's doing, but I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on what's going on here?
Yeah. I mean, someday we hope to be stressed out about this. If we could be so lucky. But so my first thought is these people impersonating Bungie are just pirates that want to watch the world burn? Like, what was the trigger? Do we have any idea what their motive was, or like why Destiny? Why?
From what I've heard, the people who are disgruntled with Bungie had legitimate content copyright strikes against some of their content because they uploaded content that Bungie does not approve of through their terms of service. So Bungie flagged some of their content, and in retaliation, it's almost like they've decided to try and burn everything down to make a point, which is kind of sad because if you're part of the Destiny content or Destiny like creator community, you're not only like trying to hurt Bungie, but you're hurting your
You're hurting the
peers,
content
right?
creators. So this is essentially these are vigilantes who are responding to something Bungie did. This is about Bungie at the end of the day.
It's what it sounds like. Yeah.
Okay,
From what I've
interesting.
heard. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious if this was just like a random, we just want to watch the world burn situation. But okay, it sounds a little pointed. My other takeaway is, yeah, good for, I don't know, good for Bungie. I like seeing, quite frankly, and this has been well documented and it's been a problem forever. Google and YouTube, they're just unchecked. I mean, YouTube is too big to fail. That's why we're here. And there's no real competitor to YouTube. And quite frankly, they just don't care that much about their content creators unless you reach a certain echelon, right? And because of that, people just get screwed over all the time on YouTube. And so it's really, I mean, you know, no company's the good guy. at the end of the day, Bungie's looking out for themselves, but it's nice to see YouTube kind of have their feet held to the fire. I would love to see this make waves a little bit, and I don't know, maybe make YouTube crack down a little bit on their business model and just, the user experience, the creator experience. It all could stand to be a lot better. So this is by no means going to change everything, but it kind of always starts somewhere, and maybe we'll start seeing more companies take issue with certain things, that some of these bigger companies taking issue with YouTube, and get things to change a little bit.
That's exactly my hope, is that YouTube, they're too big to fail. So it really becomes about what is their incentives and what do they care about? If something is high profile enough, or it becomes costly enough, or if it impacts brand perception enough, they might actually invest more in it. And I think the DMCA copyright policy thing is a really hard problem to solve. Like, I think to solve it more effectively probably is going to take a lot more investment, both in technology, but also in people. And so they're not eager to do that unless they have good reasons to do it. I mean, there are good reasons to do it, but good reasons for their bottom line or for their brand. So I'm hoping this is some real pressure, because Bungie is actually a significant company in an industry that Google cares about. So let's hope this puts some pressure on YouTube. Kidding. I mean, also, like, the John Doe is kind of a scummy thing to do, but I'm more interested in YouTube actually taking some meaningful change. So I guess we'll
also a little bit curious here before we move on. I don't know if you have the answer or not, but they're seeking damages.
I have all the answers, Levi. I have the news. My goodness.
Well, then why am I wasting my time talking about Bungie? No, so 150,000 for each fraudulent takedown. Is any of this going to go towards the content creators affected, or is this just Bungie lining their pockets because they're irritated? Because it'd be kind of cool if this was actually going. Yeah, I don't know.
I doubt it.
I would like to. I would like to think that they're seeking damages, and some of this will go to the actual people affected. If there were at least 5 fraudulent claims, they lost the revenue from those videos. It would be a really bad look for Bungie to sue for this money over content creators who lost, part of their income, and then just take it as a company and be like, take that, YouTube. Like, that would look so bad.
It's Bungie, and
I know. I wouldn't put it past them at all.
I wouldn't put it past them. I don't think this is for the content creators. This is legal. This is about their brand. I mean, I think Bungie. They do. Okay. I think they do care about their creators to an extent, because it's good.
A means to an end.
Right, it's a means to an end. I think they have some level of care. I don't expect any of this money to actually go to the creators, but hey, if they prove us wrong, then that'd be an awesome move. But what Bungie said in these takedowns that they've now issued in this legal action is that the senders of the fake takedown requests, which Google acted upon as if legitimate, had disrupted Bungie's community and caused, quote, nearly incalculable damage to the company itself, end quote. So
they're just claiming it's brand damage.
They're claiming this is this is basically brand slander, not a legal term, but
that's a bummer. I think it would have been a really cool move of them to put some of this towards the content creators.
Maybe they will. I'm only going off of the article I read, but we could hope. But I also
we'll try and keep tabs on it.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, let's move on from fraudsters using takedowns abusively to giant corporations of beloved games using takedowns abusively. I almost
brought Nintendo up in the past segment.
Well, thankfully your instinct was correct. So our next story, number 6, is that Nintendo has been using takedowns. I mean, this isn't new knowledge. They've been doing this for years, going after creators who, in any way that they perceive their trademarks have been infringed upon. This is just the latest example that is ridiculous. So they've taken aim at a random Twitter user, which we all know random Twitter users are the best people to invest a lot of energy going after, right? A lot of productive stuff comes from that. So someone on Twitter uploaded a scanned copy of the strategy guide for Mario 64, the 25-year-old Nintendo 64 game. This strategy guide is no longer in print, obviously. It hasn't been in print for decades. The only way to access it is to try and find a physical copy on some random merchant site on the internet that you can buy. So like eBay, or wherever might happen to have, and again, it's not in print, so this thing's not easy to come by. So someone scanned the pages, uploaded it to Twitter, and lo and behold, Nintendo is going after this person, trying to seek damages and to get them to take it down. And I find this baffling that Nintendo is interested in using their energy this way. Like, how does
It's
this doesn't
incredible
help
how
them
much
at
time they have
all?
on their
Like,
hands.
and money, the amount of money that must go into these
Yeah.
things. Like, I get that they're sensitive about their brand, but like a 25-year-old strategy guide that's not in print, like, you're not hurting your sales for Mario 64. You're not selling anymore. And they don't offer like a comparable. It's not like, oh, they've released they released the Mario All-Star trilogy for the Switch a year or two ago, and they have a new strategy guide you can buy digitally. They're not doing that. So if anything, this could drive more interest to people
It
rebuying a game for the 9th time on their latest console.
Yeah, it's honestly baffling. Every Nintendo story that comes up like this, and there's several a
They're
year,
all
it feels
infuriating.
like.
Yeah.
It just feels like it feels so misguided, and it honestly just feels like malintent. Like, what possible reason could you have to do this other than you are just a giant tool of a company? Like, there's just no, like you said, honestly, Nintendo has such brand loyalty, such iconic figures, people who will show up to buy their stuff no matter what. Nintendo there is a world where they could be the nicest guys, not doing any of this, not striking anybody, not suing anybody, not worrying about ports of their games or any of this. And they would still, I feel like I could personally guarantee they would still make as much, if not more money. Like, at the end of the
Yeah.
day, I don't think this increases their bottom line at all. In fact, it tarnishes their reputation in the eyes of those who care enough to pay attention to it, like I do. I mean, I love Nintendo games, but I really can't stand Nintendo as a company because they do stuff like this and they feel so out of touch and misguided, and
Mm-hmm.
it just doesn't make any sense.
Or
Bad headlines.
the person on Twitter who uploaded this, they went and scanned a, what, like
Yeah,
150
that's
page
a fan.
book
Like, that's
and
a
uploaded
person
it.
who loves that game.
And they're not making any money off having that on
No.
Twitter. They are doing it because they love the game and they want to share that with other people. And there's no other way to access that content.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a bummer. And I like Nintendo. It seems Nintendo really wants us to hurt. So, and it's frustrating because they make such good games that
So
it's like,
confusing. They're such a confusing
so
company.
weird. It's so weird, but
They want to spread joy to everyone, and then they want you to suffer if you do anything they remotely don't like.
they will destroy you if
They
you
will
don't.
destroy your life, your family. They're coming after you.
They'll send hitmen. Like,
Very strange.
it's crazy.
And like you said, this is like the most egregious example. A 25-year-old strategy guide. Like, they're not selling the game anymore. They're not selling the strategy guide anymore. If I want to go into my computer online and print off the 25-year-old strategy guide for Mario 64 and staple it together, why do you care, Nintendo? I still don't own the real thing. It's not going to be laminated and fancy or however the original was. Like, it's
Well, and
just,
they're not stealing a sale either. Like,
it's
presumably that's what you
laughable.
care about. Like,
Yeah.
if this was a new strategy guide, it's like, oh, we want them to go to the store and buy one. Sure. But like,
No, yeah.
it's not what's happening here. So I
You're
legitimately
preserving
don't
nostalgia.
understand.
Nintendo runs off nostalgia, and this
They
is
do.
preserving nostalgia, and Nintendo repeatedly, continuously tries to squash the love and nostalgia people have for the games. It's so funny.
Yeah. And this
I don't know.
feels self-defeating. So it's another crazy thing from Nintendo. So let's move on. Let's move on to yet another happy story. Story number 7.
One after the other.
Everybody's Golf is shutting down their servers and online access. So I included this because I know this is a game you played a year or two ago.
I was actually sad to see this headline. It kind of bummed me
Yeah.
out.
And I downloaded this and was eagerly anticipating playing this with you and some of our friend group at some point. I never got around to it last year, but I have it still installed on my PlayStation 5. And it's shutting down. September 30th is when the shutdown actually happens. It's going to be all online features, including multiplayer modes. And you'll still be able to play single player offline modes. hint, hint, Gran Turismo 7, cough, cough, uh, polyphony.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
Obviously, there's some online trophies that won't be available, so you'll still be able to play a little bit. But I think a lot of the appeal for this game for me was playing it with friends. So kind of a bummer to see. And if you'd like to get a little bit more playing in on this, you should do it before September.
Huh. 2017, so a little over 5 years. That feels short. That concerns me when you see a lifespan that short for, and like you said, it may not have blown up or been this phenomenon that kept the lights on, obviously, but just like I feel like this game is a bit of a cult hit, and there's
Mm-hmm.
a not insubstantial amount of people who really go to this game as their golf game. Like everyone kind of
Yeah.
likes to have a golf game to play with friends. It's just kind of one of those video game staples. And I know, kind of funny, this is like, that's how I got turned on to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's their golf game. They play with everyone. And I played it with my brother and a few others, and it was fun. And I enjoyed having that as my golf game. So this was really sad to see. And I don't know. I don't know if the company must be struggling. I just can't imagine it was that taxing on the servers, how many people are playing, like how much server space do you need to keep this game running, so
Yeah.
it's sad to see it. I mean, this is just kind of, this is the world we're entering into. We've started to see in the past 5 years with all those late 2000s consoles that kind of birthed the online storefronts and
Mm-hmm.
online play, and we're starting to see the death of all of these and the repercussion of where gaming's at, and we don't have an answer for it yet.
Yeah.
It's a bummer. I mean, I don't imagine I'll ever be playing everybody's golf on my own. So,
Yeah. Right.
well, you know what we need to do? Let's set a timer for September 29th, and we'll have a party, and everybody's golf party, and get together and at one last hurrah.
Yep. We'll have a funeral
A
exiting this
Viking
life of video
funeral.
games. Yeah. Shoot a
Yes.
flame arrow at our console. I don't know
Oh
how we'll do
man.
that, but we'll figure something out. All right. So let's move on. It's time for the rumor mill. So our eighth story is a
Ah,
couple of different rumors we got.
the
First
rumor
one
mill.
is a new first party Sony studio, Fire Sprite Games, is supposedly working on a narrative driven horror game in Unreal Engine 5, which sounds interesting for like a first party Sony game. We don't have a lot of details on this yet. I think if you like horror games, you like Sony first party games, this is probably worth keeping an eye on. I don't know a whole lot about Fire Sprite. I'm not sure if that rings a bell at all for you.
Fire Sprite is it's a new. Was that in the reading you did? A newly acquired studio. I do know that much.
Yeah,
Fairly newly.
founded. Looks like they were
I
founded in
don't
2012. Yeah,
I don't know too much that they've done. I don't know that they've done too much, but
yeah. It looks
I
like
do. Go
looks
ahead.
like they've done the Playroom. They did Run Sackboy Run, which that was a
Is that a phone
PlayStation
game?
Vita and a mobile title. They've
Okay.
done some VR stuff. It looks like.
So yeah, what I do know
Yeah.
about them is that they are helping in some form. They're collaborating on the new Horizon VR game,
Mm,
Call of the Mountain. I don't know what they're doing, but they're helping with that project.
yeah.
So that kind of leads me to wonder. I don't think there's any news specifically regarding this release, whether it will be VR or not, but it does lead me to wonder. With an Unreal Engine 5 horror game,
Yeah.
you'd kind of think that if they have some VR work under their belt, this might be a PSVR 2 situation.
Yeah, that's
I don't
kind
know.
of what I'm wondering because we got the announcement for the PSVR 2 a month or so ago, um, and I think Sony is slowly leaning more and more into their VR experiences and trying to take that from a small niche to a slightly broader
Yeah.
niche. So I could see this being like a first party game that maybe it's on both or maybe it's solely on VR. We'll have to
And
kind of wait and see what they do. But
actually, now that you mentioned that, the timing of this rumor mill thing, with Sony seemingly getting set to announce the release of PSVR 2, it could be um, Q4 this year. It could be.
mm-hmm.
It might get pushed to 2023. But like you said, I think they're trying to really push VR. They're trying to get a lot of momentum heading into this next generation of VR. Get a lot more people to adopt it. I know I probably will, where I didn't with the first one. So I truly do believe behind the scenes they're probably putting a lot of effort and development force into VR where they can. So, anyways, not to say that's what's happening. That's just my speculation. But I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we're better for a VR game than a horror, narrative
Totally.
driven horror game. I mean, that's kind of its bread and butter. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
So that's something you're into. I think that's kind of exciting because some of the VR horror stuff is. Uh, I tried like a brief demo of one and it was a bit much for me. But
Yeah, I
for people
don't.
who love those horror games, like having a first party game of a studio that clearly is good enough quality to work on titles like Horizon could be really exciting. So I guess we'll stay tuned there. One other rumor in the mill right now is that Microsoft is supposedly moving forward with a family plan for Xbox Game Pass. So this is not confirmed yet. Obviously, it's in the mill. It's what rumors are, but
It's in the
this could
middle.
be exciting. That's right. This could be exciting. I think family plans are a good idea. There are a lot of people who either you and like friends or family members can save a little bit of money by grouping together and getting slightly cheaper costs. So here's to hoping for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think this has definitely got to be happening, right? I think I remember this one I did look into. Um, the quote was something like, I think it's rumored to be up to like 5 people in a family,
Yeah,
and that it will be cheaper than having 5 subscriptions to Game Pass. And it's
I would
like,
hope. I would hope
I would hope that this family plan is cheaper than what is that, $75 a month?
something like
Like,
that. Yeah.
so I don't know. We'll see what the pricing is. I do believe this will come out. Maybe we'll all be able to, you and I and
Yeah.
my brother and whoever will be able to, because right now I don't even maintain a Game Pass subscription. I get it
Same.
when I let games kind of build up, and then maybe I'll get it for a month and play some, but I don't maintain one. Maybe they'll be able to get more people just setting it and
Mhm.
forgetting it with a family plan.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's move on. The ninth story is our release radar. We got a couple of games that are have some level of movement or update in various directions. I think first the elephant in the
I don't want to talk about
proverbial
this one.
room. I think we got to talk about this because it's on my fantasy critic league, and this one thing might be what clinches the
Sucks.
victory for me. We'll see. That is that Breath of the Wild 2 has been delayed to spring of 2023. Now, as a gamer, as a Zelda fan, this news saddens me. Doesn't surprise me. I really didn't think it was going to come out this year, but I so on our fantasy league, I counterpicked this. Levi picked up Breath of the Wild 2, and I counterpicked it, meaning he cannot drop it from his list. So my strategy here is for him to just get a nice 0 in that spot. So
Yeah, this is gonna
that
hurt
part of me's
real bad.
happy.
This is gonna hurt real bad. This is a lose-lose situation for me. So not only did I lose Breath of the Wild 2, but I probably lost our fantasy league in one fell swoop here because instead of getting a 98, one better than Elden Ring, I will get 0 points, and you
Yeah.
too will get a nice juicy 0 as a counter pick, which is great. So my whole draft is starting to just look like one giant mistake. I'm gonna pull back the curtain here for a moment. We were setting up this draft, and we were flipping a coin, doing an RNG dice roll to see who gets to pick first. And and we're both like, oh, I hope I get to pick first. That'd be great. And it comes up for me. I get first pick. I'm like, sweet. Well, I take my first pick. I picked Forbidden West, and because I know Zach. I know I'm like, he's gonna go God of War. He's gonna do something else. He's not gonna take Elden Ring. Well, it turns out it was a snake. It was snake draft rules, which means that it zigzags back and forth. Right, the second person gets to pick twice in a row, and that just like derailed my entire draft. I ended up picking Hollow Knight later on, which I don't think that's coming out in 2023 at this point. Like, I've given up hope on that one. You
Yeah.
should have counterpicked that one.
I should have. Yeah.
I have a lot of. I feel like I swung and missed on a lot here, and learned a lot. I'm looking forward to the draft 2023.
I'm sure I'll get obliterated next year, but I'm enjoying every ounce of victory I get right now. So, but
Um,
sad to announce, obviously, Breath of the Wild 2 has been delayed to spring of next year. I think not surprising, but we've had a lot of great games this year so far, releasing in
so
a
it'll be
variety of
6 years.
states. But
Six
6 years.
years. Oh,
I mean, it's
if you'd have
for
told me,
Nintendo. That's like kind of average. So
I know, but same engine. When Breath of the Wild came out and did what it did, I thought, oh, we're gonna get this next one pretty quick here. I think because they're using the same engine and everything. Man, 6 years for the same engine. That's
this is
brutal.
Nintendo,
6 year
man.
wait times. Oh,
They operate under some different form of
I'm gonna be like
development
60
gravity.
years old by the time Breath of the Wild 3 comes out.
Yeah,
It's just depressing.
Well, let's move on to other release radar announcements then. Another game that's been teased is Ghostbusters. There's a Ghostbusters game coming out, and I don't know why I included this because I don't care at all. But maybe
it's not
maybe some of our
jam, but
maybe our viewer does. Maybe our one
some of
sole
you out
viewer.
there. Yeah.
It is kind of interesting in that this is like a multiplayer game where some people will play as the Ghostbusters and some other people will play as the ghosts themselves.
So what they did is they saw the multiplayer mode from Luigi's Mansion 3 and they were like,
yeah,
hey, that's basically Ghostbusters. Let's make that.
And they saw
but that's cool. I mean, there's a lot of fandom for this franchise, so
there
is. It's not bad.
You know, I never really watched the movies growing up. I know a lot of people love them, so I'm sure some people will have fun with this. So check it out. I think it was announced for like Q4 of this year, or I think that's the anticipated timeline. I think I could be wrong. So yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
The next one I'm actually pretty excited about. So one other release that's coming up. I don't think we have a time frame just yet. That is Lego Bricktales. I don't know if you've seen anything about this.
I have no idea what Bricktales is.
I'm going to overlay some video footage and you'll have to come back and rewatch
Future me is going to know exactly what it looks like.
Oh, you're going to be thrilled. So it's a Lego game where you like build things. So it's kind of like building Lego sets within a video game. And then you get to like play with the things you've built. So like they showed an example of someone building like a little plane or a helicopter. And then it's kind of like you're solving little puzzles with the things you're building. So it's kind of seems like an interesting mix between like a Lego building simulator, which is great because Legos are so expensive that if I could just build like, I don't know if it'll be as fun. Like it's very tactile. So I'm not sure.
That's what the metaverse will be. It's a Lego simulator.
Yeah. Mark Zuckerberg handing you Legos. And hopefully I'm sure
he's listening.
He'll charge just as much as the physical counterpart, but
that's true. So you're building Lego sets and then you're solving puzzles. I don't understand.
It sounds like there's like little levels where they showed this guy like built like a little helicopter and flew up to this ledge or something. So it seems like there's a step beyond.
I'm super down. That sounds awesome.
I don't know how far this will go. Like how good are these puzzles? Is it very like rote puzzles where it's like, you need to get up on the ledge. Here's the plane to build. Or is it more free form? I can do whatever I want.
If it's more of an objective and less of a puzzle, maybe less down. But if it's like an actual puzzle where like you're free to kind of use your brains,
blocks.
Your brains and your blocks to accomplish something, then that could be really cool. I could be interested.
We might be shooting setting our expectations just a little high, but it sounds cool.
Elden Ring, step down.
Move aside from soft. So that sounds kind of interesting. Look forward to seeing more, even if it is like the lesser version of what we said. I'm going to be interested in checking it out.
Yeah.
Cool. The final thing on the release radar, it sounds like Death Stranding Director's Cut is coming to PC. So this is probably not any crazy news,
I thought it was, I guess it was just the regular version was on PC and now they've found another excuse to re-release the Director's Cut.
They released Director's Cut. On PlayStation. I guess they waited a bit. So if you are now wanting to jump into Death Stranding on PC, I guess this is the way to go.
There you go. Yeah. I saw Digital Foundry today. I was scrolling through YouTube and they had a comparison of Director's Cut on PC and PS5. And I was like, oh, is this from like a year ago? And I was like, oh no, 6 hours ago. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
So interesting. I haven't even checked out the PS5 Director's Cut yet. So maybe someday in the future, but yeah, if you're wanting to play, go check it out. All right. Our final main story is Patch Watch, our famous segment where
Patch Watch.
There we go. We insert a random jingle every single time. It's different. One of the joys of tuning in here each and every week is hearing what type of jingle do we come up with.
Like a box of chocolates.
A box of not very delicious chocolates. So Patch Watch once again is Horizon Forbidden West. They released their your favorite topic. Well, their 1.09 patch a couple days ago. Now, I don't think there's a whole lot more to talk about. They fixed some more quest bugs, some more random UI stuff. We're not going to go into all of that. We'll link the patch notes if you want to go check it out. I think the key thing worth calling out is like the main issues that people have had with Horizon since launch have been performance issues with performance mode not holding a great, not holding 60 FPS and poor like visual fidelity, flickering of textures, just really a not good performance mode for Forbidden West, which is really disappointing. And unfortunately, this patch does not correct that. I think what's really frustrating in the patch, they say, in previous weeks they've said, we're looking with high priority into the shimmering and visual stuff. They've kind of walked back the urgency a little bit this week, and they say we're currently looking into several issues reported by the community. Please note that these are not yet fixed in this patch, but our teams are aware of them and they're being investigated. So it's like not as high priority as they used to make it sound. And the top one they list is that the team continues to make tweaks to the game's content with the goal to reduce visual shimmering. So not only have they walked back the urgency of like, this is no longer listed as top priority or urgent priority for their teams, they're walking this back to we're trying to reduce this, not fix this, not get rid of this. And so I think that's kind of a bummer. I think we were hoping they were actually going to be able to fix this. And this seems like confirmation that maybe this is some architectural thing that's not easy for them to fix and they're not willing to invest the time. I think there's probably some solutions they still could explore, but I'm not a game developer, so I don't know. But yeah, this was frustrating. I'm curious to hear what you think about it, because I know this has been a thorn in your side for a while now.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I know we're running long here, but I guess I'm going to say my piece here and call it a day. Put this to rest, maybe, hopefully. But, this has just been the worst. And, I don't know. We talked earlier about how Sony has positioned themselves as being this premium product, right? They want to be the premium product. They want to charge $70 for their games. And in recent years, that's been kind of lived up to. This past month with Gran Turismo 7 Horizon, it's been a mess. There's a couple things here I want to bring attention to, because just reading over, it's so funny. You sent me this link the second I randomly opened Twitter. I was like, you know what? It's been a while. Let me check Gorilla, see if they have any news. And I pulled up this article, and I just hate this article. I hate everything about it. They say, so first of all, through this whole process, there's two things that really irritate me about this. First of all, this game releasing in the state that it did, it was not finished, and the performance mode is, to put it plainly, it's just below the quality standard of the industry. Like there's not another performance mode I've played in years that performs as badly as this one. Granted, the frame rate I think is consistent, but the cost is just it's unacceptably high when it comes to fidelity and things like that. So the state of the game was one thing, but then the other thing that's kind of just compounded this issue for me is the way they've handled it since launch. There's been a lot of things that have really rubbed me the wrong way. For one, I hate the way they keep saying we're investigating reports. It just feels like through this whole thing, they've tried to distance themselves from the state of the performance mode specifically. And you can't convince me that if I went to Guerrilla headquarters in, I forget where their station is in Amsterdam, yeah, and turned on the game on one of their TVs, that it would look any different than on my TV. Like I don't think there's investigation needed. Like I think if you turn on the game, pretty much everyone can see that performance mode is not performing correctly. To some degrees of variance, depending on your TV, but even on your nice brand new OLED TV, the performance mode does not look good.
Resolution mode looks a lot better on my TV, yeah, but the performance mode does not look very good.
So this investigating reports thing, I hate that they keep saying that, like they're trying to dig for a needle in a haystack. Like, oh, we keep hearing this is a problem, but we can't find it. Like this is an abundantly obvious problem. Let's see here. Then they go on to say these issues were especially visible on certain TVs in the jungle areas of the game. I can't even with that statement. Like, first of all, I think the community kind of started to make this a debate of TVs, and it feels like Guerrilla have latched onto that and are trying to use that as a scapegoat. This is not a TV issue. Granted, maybe different TVs to some degree, as I said, can change your experience, or different settings might mitigate some of the problems. But do you want to know how many games on my console I've ever had to even consider my TV settings? Zero. This is the first time this has ever happened, and we're trying to act like this is a TV problem. And then the fact that they say in jungle areas of the game. No, it's literally everywhere. Like I left my game, I stopped
It's all
playing
foliage.
weeks ago. Yeah, and I was in a desert area, and it just looks like butt. It just looks like butt, and it's not a jungle area. So that whole statement to me, I just rubs me the wrong way again. Then they go on to talk about televisions some more. And then they go on to outline all the fixes that they've done. Through our patches, we've implemented a series of fixes designed to reduce the issues. Here are some of the things we've included. So kind of saying like, look at all the work we've done over the weeks. This is kind of what we're, like you said, they're kind of leaving it to rest here at this point. And then my favorite part here later on is they say some things you can do via your TV settings. Please make sure to set your TV to game mode if your TV supports it. But then the very next thing, turn off any sharpening filter on your TV. It may even be active in game mode. So turn on game mode, but it also may include sharpening. So turn off game mode. It's best to use the default set. They go through these TV things, vibrancy, saturation. I don't know. I just find this whole thing to be very poorly handled and a little bit laughable and very frustrating. I've personally lost a lot of fandom. I hesitate. I don't want to be too strong. I've lost a lot of respect for Guerrilla. I kind of, leading up to the game in February, I had positioned them as, I think most people had, and maybe still do, as one of the like preeminent developers in the gaming industry. Let alone just Sony. And so now, I mean, it's my practice to not pre-order games in general, but man, I certainly will not be pre-ordering anything from Guerrilla anytime soon. And this has just been not fun. And the other thing too is that after all of this, people have the lack of transparency. They've been so communicative without saying a thing. They've been like fake communicative about this.
They've been communicative about every other thing they're doing besides the big problem.
Well, and
it's like a classic politician move of like,
they're
they're moving the goalposts and saying like, they're acting like they're doing all these, and they are doing a lot of things, but the big issue of the game not being released in a good state is the one thing they're not really addressing.
And I mean, there are a lot of fixes that needed fixed, and they have been working on them. That's great. You could say they shouldn't have been in the game at launch. That's what I would say. But they've really been feigning transparency with this whole thing. Not once have they come out and actually addressed the issue. They keep taking words the community are saying and running with it. We're the community. We're stupid. We don't know the technical terms. We just came up with the word shimmering. Whether or not that's actually what's happening on a fundamental level. Like, there are other issues with the resolution and the anti-aliasing that aren't just shimmering. But they've continued to like latch on to things the community latches onto, like TVs or shimmering, and just kind of regurgitate that back to us instead of being the developers and saying, oh, this is what's happening on a tech level, treating us with some dignity, telling us what's wrong, and being transparent about, we can't fix this. This is going to take a long time to fix this. This is why our entire system is built this certain way. We'd have to literally rebuild it from scratch. Yeah. Okay, fine. There hasn't been that measure of transparency. It's been very fake. And the other thing too, I've seen a lot of people crying for, instead of using the severe anti-aliasing, as well as the, what's it called? Where you make a certain resolution look like a better resolution.
I'm completely blanking, but I'll throw up the term here.
Yeah, please do, because I should know that. But anyways, instead of doing that, people are saying, hey, just give us native 1440p, or maybe even less, whatever you need to get 60 frames, give us a native resolution so we don't have to deal with all these upscaling, which I think is the term, or maybe not. And so why haven't we, give us some confirmation on that? Say, hey, we can't do that. Here's why. There's just been, it's been a very fake communication through this whole thing, I feel, and it's greatly frustrated me, and it sucks. Now I'm looking at, I mean, literally my options I'm looking at now, because I don't think this will change. Where we're at now, I'm looking at either playing this game on my busting out my 1080p old monitor to play it on that, so that maybe it's less noticeable. I don't remember what my other option was, or waiting till I buy an OLED TV. Exactly. Yeah. Like, these are my two options, because it's in a rough state on. And to me, performance mode is not an option. It's a standard now. Like, to not have a game functioning well at 60 frames on console now is just below standard. So not a good look for Gorilla, in my opinion. Not a good look for Sony, which has been a running theme. I hope we can see a bounce back from this, because it's a little bit concerning about the direction of quality here. So totally. Anyways, I'm done. I'm done talking about this forever. I will never talk about Horizon Forbidden West again. I promise everybody.
I can't wait to throw that soundbite in the next time you talk about it. But the one last thing I was going to say is, this is like a car company selling you a brand new car whose suspension is completely wrecked. And then when you're driving on a really bad road and someone's like, hey, if you drive on the new road that was just paved fresh, it feels a lot better. And then, the car company is like, hey, for better driving and suspension and comfort of transport, try driving on these roads and highways. Try and avoid these other interstates, and try not to drive in places.
Try avoiding any roads that are about a year to 2 years old.
Right, exactly. Try buying a new road. It just
classic. You with the analogies, always just.
I love it. I'm not sure how analogies. Good they are, but I mean, yeah, it's kind of laughable to bust out the TV thing, because what other game? I can't think of another game where I've had to look through a list of like TV components to try and setting. Like, I get tinkering with your settings to try and optimize, but it is really a standard to have a good performance mode and a good resolution mode. So I don't know. It sounds like this isn't something that's really going to be changed anytime soon, if ever. But
I would love to get a documentary on what happened here. Like, what is going, because I just, it's so weird to me that a Sony first party studio of assumedly this caliber, that this happened. I want to know what happened. Yeah. There needs to be like an intense documentary done that I'll watch on Netflix.
A Netflix docuseries. Agreed.
Exactly.
Well, that was Patch Watch. Let's round it out with something a little bit more lighthearted before we go. What do you think the coolest controller you've ever seen is? Answer me that, Levi.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know there was more. Twig just never ends.
One last thing.
The coolest controller I've ever seen. That I've ever seen, that I've ever felt. Like, what is just
because I'm about to one up it.
Oh man, I don't know. I have no idea. The game. I love the GameCube controller. I'm a sucker for the GameCube controller.
Okay, well, the GameCube controller is better than anything I could ever bring up. So thanks for picking the one example. I love the GameCube controller, but if you look at the bottom of our notes, and I'm going to put a picture.
Nintendo 64 controller. That's what I meant.
Oh gosh,
the best controller.
Wonderful,
of all time. Ergonomically perfection.
Yeah. Well, if I'm going to put a picture up on screen for our viewers, but if you look at the bottom of our notes, we have a new Xbox controller. That is part of a contest for the new Sonic movie that has Sonic and Knuckles and Jim Carrey as Dr. Eggman. And they're doing this promotion where they have this special Sonic and Knuckles controllers. And as you can see in this picture, fans are calling this the Furry controller, which is wonderful. Obviously,
what else would you call
Microsoft
it?
Microsoft has been trying to call this, I think, like I think they've been calling it like the like bristly controller, like they're supposed to be porcupine.
No way,
things.
They're calling it the bristly controller.
Microsoft can't come out and say, "Hey, here's our furry controller."
I think you just got to.
But what did they expect?
I thought the image was blurry until I got a little bit closer.
So
is. I mean, can you imagine? You got to be your sanitation has to be on point. Can you imagine the Cheeto fingers? Getting all up in the furry controller, like
I'm going to the same place. I was just thinking, imagine hot Cheeto crumbles baked into that on a hot, sweaty day after playing Elden Ring.
With these controllers, if you used these controllers,
day 2,
if you actually used them, how disgusting would they be after a week? Like, I already think my controllers are disgusting, and they're smooth surfaces you can clean off. This is. I mean, this is clearly like a framed, gamer showpiece thing.
True,
I
you
would
can't.
love.
So yeah, you
I
can't
I
buy
want
these.
to. I love to hope that someone out there is legitimately going to use this as their main controller, though. That's amazing.
I hope so. Maybe we'll find out because you cannot buy these. They are part of a contest. But I've entered this contest, and there's a chance that I'll get my hands on one of these Sonic
Oh
or
my
Knuckles
goodness,
controllers. If you too would like to be in this
we
contest and
could
get your
double.
own, get double. If you want to get your own furry controller, get in on the furry action. Don't Google that, as they say. Look into the
That's safe for
show
work.
notes. We'll link this as one of the links in the description. But
The console itself is pretty ugly.
it's pretty bad.
Like, what is? Oh, I get it. It's the golden ring for
Yeah,
Sonic. Okay, thematically it now
thematically
makes
it
sense,
works, but it
but
doesn't look
color
good.
wise, it all just felt very not congruent
It's
and not. It's not something I look at like and snap judgment. Think like, oh, that
yeah.
looks good. It looks kind of not great,
It
but
is on brand but garish, shall we say?
yeah, there you go. Well said. Whew.
Um,
Wow, that's nuts. I can't believe that.
so that's a fun little tidbit.
Glad I
But
tuned in to Neverlag.
yeah, you heard it here first. But that's it. Anything else from you? I know I brought the news today, but is there anything else
No, you brought
from?
the news. I was newsless, and I honestly really enjoyed this format. So, I mean, let us know in the comments. Psych, there's none of you, so we get to do whatever we want until people show up and tell us their opinions. So
Maybe our one viewer will chime in. We'll hold you to
maybe
that.
I really enjoyed reacting. So this was fun, and yeah, no, that's it. I mean, went a little long today, but if you stayed with us, hopefully you enjoyed yourself, and we appreciate you for sticking with us till the end. And remember, you can find us over on Patreon at patreon.com/neverlag. And you could also hit the like button or the subscribe button or comment. And that would just be like pretty rad. And we would appreciate it. But otherwise, we'll catch you on the next This Week in Gaming.